Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture session on metal casting and welding, and the subject code is 18ME35B. Myself Anil Kumar MM. I am working as Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. In the previous session, we had discussed the different types of melting furnaces like electric arc furnaces, like direct and indirect type of electric arc furnaces, and the fuel fired furnaces like coke fired furnace, gas fired furnace, and oil fired furnace. But in this session, we are going to discuss the construction and working of the cupola furnace, and this is the block diagram of the cupola furnace. Cupola furnace is nothing but it is used for melting only the cast iron material. The cast iron is melted in the cupola furnace. Although some other type of furnaces also are capable of melting the cast iron, but the quantity of the material to be melted is very less in the induction furnace or other type of furnaces. Okay, there around 10 to 25 kgs of metal can be melted in the induction furnace. But if you require the tonnage of the material, okay, so the largest tonnage of material that can be melted by using the cupola furnace. So large quantity of metal can be melted by using the cupola furnace. Okay, and this cupola furnace is mainly meant for melting only the cast iron, and this cupola furnace, it is a vertical type of cylindrical furnace. Okay, that is only for melting the cast iron. Now let us discuss the construction and the working of the cupola furnace. Okay, this cupola furnace consists of the steel shell. The outermost layer we can call it as it is made up of steel. Okay, it is the steel shell, and the inner surface of the steel shell is lined with the refractory material. Refractory material is nothing but either it may be clay or fire brick can be used, that will prevent the heat losses. Okay, and abrasion and erosion can be prevented. Okay, so the outermost steel shell that will be lined with the refractory material, and the two opening will be provided in the furnace. One is at the top and another one is the bottom. Okay, the two opening will be provided in the furnace. At the bottom of the furnace is the bottom portion of the furnace. At the bottom of the furnace, the hinged insulated doors will be provided. Okay, these are the hinged door. These are the hinges that will be connected to the bottom door, and this door can be open and closed with the help of the prop bar. Okay, this is the prop bar. This will be support the bottom doors, and these bottom doors will be open and closed with the help of the prop bar. This prop bar will be support the bottom door. Okay, once the melting is completed, whatever the unwanted materials are broken bricks or the sand or unburned coke, that will be removed by opening the bottom door. Okay, and above the bottom door, the refractory sand, the sand bottom, that is refractory sand will be rammed on the bottom door. Okay, and this sand is rammed in the tapered manner, easy to flow of molten metal from the furnace to the ladle through the pouring spout. Okay, here the pouring spout will be provided. Through that pouring spout, we can douse the molten metal from the furnace into the ladle. Okay, and then slightly or opposite to the pouring spout and slightly above, the hole will be provided. That hole we can call it as the slag hole. Okay, this slag hole is used to remove the slag in the molten metal. Okay, so flux will be react with the whatever the impurity is present in that molten metal, and it form a slag. The slag will be floating at the top of the molten metal, then that slag will be removed through the slag hole. Okay, and above the slag hole, the tire wind box and tires will be provided. Okay, these are the tires and this is the wind box. Okay, tires is nothing but there is a small opening will be provided through which we can forces the compressed air inside the furnace for the combustion. Okay, if you burning the fuel, the air is required, so that air will be supplied through the tires from the wind box through the pipeline, and this pipeline will be connected to the blowing equipment. Okay, and then the alternative layer of charge, that is coke, flux, and then the material, that iron, that will be added inside the furnace through the charging door. Okay, the charging door, it will be provided at the top of the furnace. Through that charging door, we can add the charge inside the furnace. The charge is nothing but either coke plus flux, and then the metal, that is cast iron, will be added inside the furnace. Okay, and this is the construction part of the cupola furnace. Okay, the outermost layer, it is the steel shell and lined with the refractory material. Okay, and then the two opening will be provided. One is at the top and the one is the bottom. Okay, and then the hinged insulated doors will be provided at the bottom portion, and this door will be open and closed with the help of the prop bar. Okay, this is the prop bar will support the bottom door. Okay, the open and close with the help of the prop bar. Okay, and then the sand is rammed in a tapered manner that will helps to flow of molten metal easily from the furnace to the ladle. Okay, and above the pouring spout the slag hole will be provided for removing the slag from the furnace, and above the slag hole the tires and wind box will be provided. So these tires is nothing but there is a small opening. In that small opening we have to force the compressed air for the combustion into the wind box. Okay, and then the alternative layer of charge will be added through the charging door to inside the furnace. Okay, one is coke, flux, and then the metal will be added inside the furnace. Okay, and this is the construction of the cupola furnace. Next, coming to the working, it consists of the following steps. One is the starting the cupola and charging of the cupola and the melting at tapping slag and the molten metal and dropping down the bottom. Okay, these are the following steps will be involved in the cupola furnace. First one, there is the starting the cupola. Initially, just we have to place the soft and dry wooden pieces inside the furnace. That means slightly above the sand rammed. Okay, here we can place the dry and soft wooden pieces. Okay, and then the coke to the tire level. Okay, just you can add the soft and the dry wooden pieces along with the coke. It will be added inside the furnace up to the tire level, and then that wooden pieces will be ignited, and then you have to supply the suitable amount of compressed air inside the furnace, so the combustion will be taking place. Okay, that is the first one, that is the starting the cupola. Okay, just you have to start the cupola just by placing the soft and dry wooden pieces and along with the coke. That coke will be added till to the tire level, and then you have to ignite it through the pouring spout. Through that pouring spout you have to ignite it. Okay, next step, there is the charging of cupola. The charging, it consists of the alternative layer of the coke, flux, and then the metal, that is iron, that will be added inside the furnace through the charging door. Okay, so the charge is nothing but it consists of the coke, flux, and the metal. Okay, that will be added inside the furnace through the charging rod. Okay, so the alternative layer of coke, flux, and metal will be added inside the furnace. Okay, this charge will be added continuously through the charging door into the furnace. The commonly used flux material in the cupola furnace is there is a limestone. Other than we can add sodium carbonate and calcium carbide is also used as the flux material, but in this cupola furnace the limestone will be added inside the furnace. Okay, and the weight of the flux will be added into the furnace is the 20% of the weight of the coke, and the commonly used the iron to coke ratio is, that is 8:1. Okay, the 8%, 8:1, the 8% the charge metal will be added inside the furnace. To melt the 8% of the metal, the 1% of the coke will be added inside the furnace. Okay, and then the flux is around 20% of the weight of the coke that will be added inside the furnace. Okay, the commonly used flux material is the limestone. The coke ratio, iron to coke ratio is 8:1, and the amount of flux, the weight of the flux will be added inside the furnace is, there is 20% of the weight of the coke. Okay, next, that is the melting. In that melting, when you supply the compressed air inside the furnace, the combustion will be taking place. Due to that combustion, the large amount of heat will be released. That hot gases will be ascending upwards, and the metal will be in descending downwards. Okay, so the heat exchange will be takes place between metal will be moving downwards and the hot gas will be moving the ascending upwards. Okay, so that the melting will be takes place. Okay, due to combustion of the fuel, the hot gases will be released. Okay, that hot gases will be ascending upward direction, and whatever the metal will be melted, that will be in descending downward direction. So that molten metal will be trickles down into the furnace. Okay, so in that the coke, along with that coke will be floating at the top of the molten metal. At the same time, this flux is also melted. Okay, the flux is also melted, and it react with the impurities whatever the present in the molten metal, and it form the slag. The slag, it protect the molten metal from to prevent the oxidation. Okay, that is the melting. Okay, due to combustion of the fuel, the material get melted. So the heat exchange from the hot gases to the molten metal. So the molten metal will be trickles down and it collected into the reservoir or in the well zone. Okay, it is collected into the bottom of the furnace. Okay, next tapping slag and molten metal. Okay, after that this the slag will be floating at the top of the molten metal, that will be removed through the slag hole. The slag hole is open and remove the whatever the slag unwanted material that is present inside the molten metal, that will be removed, and then immediately just you have to open the pouring spout and remove and drops down the molten metal inside the furnace, and it is collected into the ladle. Okay, and then when the ladle is filled, that molten metal can be poured into the mold cavity, and allow for solidification. You will get the solidified part. I can prepare the casting. Okay, next dropping down the bottom. Once the melting is completed and no more metal is required for the casting, in that situation just you have to stop the adding of the charge and then open the bottom door and remove the unwanted material, that are broken bricks or the sand or any other impurities or unburned coke is there, that will be removed, and then clean the furnace. Okay, that is the working of the cupola furnace. Okay, the first one, just starting the cupola. Initially you can start the cupola just placing the soft and dry wooden pieces inside the furnace, and then you can add the coke till to the tire level, and then you have to ignite it. Okay, next step, the charging the cupola. The alternative layer of the coke, flux, and then the metal will be added inside the furnace. Okay, and the iron to coke ratio is 8:1, and then the flux will be added around 20% of the weight of the coke. The common usual flux in the cupola furnace is the limestone. Next, melting. Due to combustion of the fuel, the hot gases will be released. That hot gases will be ascending upward direction, and then the molten metal will be descending downwards. So the heat will be exchanged from hot gases to the metal, so the melting will be takes place. So due to melting of the molten metal, that will be trickles down and it will be collected at the bottom of the furnace. Next, tapping the slag and the molten metal. Thus the flux will be melted and it react with the impurities and it forms the slag. That slag will be removed through the slag hole. Okay, once the slag is removed, just you have to open the pouring spout and remove the take down the molten metal from the furnace into the ladle, and then that molten metal is poured into the mold cavity. Then allow for casting, we will get the solidified part. You can call it as the casting. Okay, and then finally the dropping down the bottom. Just you have to open the bottom door. Once the melting is completed, just you have to stop the adding of the charge inside the furnace, and then just to open the bottom door and remove the unwanted material whatever present inside the furnace. Okay, so that is the working principle of the cupola furnace. There are different zones will be exist in the cupola furnace, that is well zone, combustion zone, reducing zone, melting zone, and preheating zone. Okay, these are the different zones will be present in the cupola furnace. First one, that is a well zone. Well zone, it is a portion located slightly above the bottom door to the tire level. That portion we can call it as the well zone. Okay, in the well zone the molten metal will be occupied. The molten metal will be occupied in the well zone. Okay, it acts as a reservoir. The molten metal collected into the well zone. Okay, the portion bottom edge of the tire and above the bottom door sand mass, that portion we can call it as the well zone. Okay, next zone is combustion zone. In that combustion zone, the combustion is taking place. Okay, so the rapid or it is also called as oxidizing zone. The rapid combustion will be taking place. This is located around 20 to 30 centimeter to the bottom level of the coke bed. Okay, from this edge to around 20 centimeter there is a combustion zone will be occupied. Okay, in this zone the rapid combustion will be taking place. Due to combustion of the fuel, the large amount of heat will be generated. Okay, so due to rapid combustion is taking place due to supplying the blast air inside the furnace. Okay, and also the manganese and silicon dioxide also evolve with the large amount of heat. So these reactions will be takes place in the combustion zone. So the carbon is react with the oxygen, that will form the carbon dioxide, and it evolves large amount of heat, and then the manganese is react with the oxygen, that will produce manganese dioxide, and it also evolves the large amount of heat, and silicon is react with the oxygen and that gives silicon dioxide, and it also evolves a large amount of heat. So that due to rapid combustion, the temperature in this zone is around 1500 to 1800 degree centigrade. The combustion unit is also called as the oxidizing zone. Okay, here the rapid combustion will be taking place. Next, there is a reducing zone, or it is a protection zone. Reducing zone, it will be located above the combustion zone. Okay, it is located above the combustion zone to the top level of the coke bed. Okay, above the combustion zone to the top level of the coke bed, that is the reducing zone. In the reducing zone, the carbon dioxide, it will be reduced to carbon monoxide. Okay, it get into coke bed. Okay, so that will be flowing in the downward direction. So this carbon dioxide react with the coke and it gives the carbon monoxide, and then it will be reduced into carbon monoxide, so the temperature will be reduced. So the temperature in this reducing zone is around 1200 degree centigrade. Here the carbon dioxide, it will be reduced into carbon monoxide. Okay, it pick up some carbon carbon in the zone. Okay, that is the reducing zone. Next zone is, there is a melting zone. In that melting zone, the melting takes place, the molten metal get melted. This will be located above the reducing zone. That means that is above the reducing zone means top of the coke bed to the top of the metal charge. Okay, that zone we can call it as the melting zone. Here the melting will be takes place. So the hot gases, the heat will be transferred into the metal, and the material get melted, and it will be trickles down through the coke bed into the weld zone. Okay, so here the molten metal get melted and it will be trickles down through the coke bed, and it will be collected into the weld zone. Okay, so the iron is react with the carbon monoxide, it gives iron carbide and the carbon dioxide. So this reaction will be taking place in the melting zone. Okay, and next there is a preheating zone. In that preheating zone, it will be located at the top of the melting zone. Okay, above the melting zone. Okay, on top of the metal charge to the charging door, that zone you can call it as the preheating zone. Here the hot gases will be moving in the ascending upwards. That heat will be transferred into the metal charge, okay, which is present inside the furnace. So that is called as the preheating zone. Okay, these are the different zones will be exist into the cupola furnace. Okay, first zone, that is a weld zone. Weld zone, it is a reservoir, it occupies the molten metal. And the combustion zone, here the combustion will be taking place above the weld zone, you can call it as a combustion zone or oxidizing zone. Here the rapid combustion will be taking place due to the supplying of the blast air inside the furnace, and the large amount of heat will be generated into the combustion zone. And reducing zone, here the carbon dioxide will be reduced into carbon monoxide, it pick up some carbon, so it will be reduced into carbon monoxide, so the temperature will be reduced into the reducing zone. And melting zone, the melting will be takes place, so the iron is react with the carbon monoxide, it gives carbon iron carbide and carbon dioxide. In the melting zone, the melting will be takes place. And the preheating zone, the preheating the charge will be takes place in the preheating zone. The hot fuel gases will be in the ascending upwards, that heat will be transferred into the whatever the charge inside the furnace, so it will be preheated. Okay, these are the different zones will be exist in the cupola furnace. So the cupola furnace, it is mainly used for melting the cast iron material. Okay, and the largest tonnage of cast iron can be melted into the cupola furnace. And although the other type of furnace also capable for melting the cast iron, but the quantity of the melting is very less. Okay, around 10 to 25 kg can be melted in the induction furnace or other type of furnaces. But in this cupola furnace, we can melt the large tonnage of cast iron can be melted in the cupola furnace. In this type of furnace, the charge used is, there is a alternative layer of the coke, flux, and then the iron. Okay, and then the iron to coke ratio is used in the cupola furnaces, that is 8:1. The 8% charge can be to melt, so 1% coke is required. And the commonly used flux material in the cupola furnace is, there is a limestone, and the weight of the flux is added into the furnace is, there is 20% of the weight of the coke. Okay, this is the construction or working of the cupola furnace. Next we will move on to the resistance furnace. This resistance furnace, it is used for melting the non-ferrous materials. So the non-ferrous materials can be melted by using the resistance furnace. Okay, now let us discuss the construction and working of the resistance furnace. This resistance furnace consists of the cylindrical steel shell. Okay, the outermost layer it is made up of steel. It is the steel shell and the lined with the refractory brick material. So the lining is provided to the steel shell to prevent the heat shocks and abrasion. Okay, to prevent the heat losses and heat shocks, the lining will be provided inside the steel shell. Okay, and then at the bottom the round block is placed upon which the crucible will be supported. Okay, the round block is placed at the bottom of the furnace upon which the crucible is supported, and the diameter of the block is similar to the diameter of the crucible to properly accommodate. Okay, for proper support, the diameter of the block is same as the diameter of the crucible. The crucible, it is generally made up of the refractory material like clay or graphite or silicon carbide. Okay, and inside the crucible the charge will be added. Okay, and inside the lining, the heating coil or resisting coil will be provided, and this resisting coil is connected to the power source, and the top of the furnace the lid will be placed. Okay, and the small opening will be provided to the lid to escape of hot gases from the furnace. Okay, there is the construction part of the resistance furnace. Okay, this resistance furnace, it consists of the steel shell. The outermost layer is steel shell, and this steel shell is lined with the refractory material to prevent the heat shocks and then the abrasion. Okay, and the helical grooves will be provided to accommodate the heating coil or resisting coil, and this resisting coil is connected to the power source. Okay, and then the round block will be placed at the center of the furnace upon which the crucible will be placed. The diameter of the block is same as the diameter of the crucible for the proper accommodation or proper support to the crucible, and then the charge will be added inside the crucible. Okay, at the top of the furnace the lid will be placed, and in that lid the small opening will be provided for the escape of the hot gases from the furnace. Okay, that is the construction part of the resistance furnace. Coming to the working, this resistance furnace work on the principle that when the high frequency of the electric current will be passing through the heating coil, this heating coil or resisting coil will resist the flow of current. When it resists the flow of current, that heat will be generated. Okay, so when you supply the power through the heating coil, this heating coil, it resists to the flow of electric current. Due to resistance offered by the coil, the heat will be generated. So due to that heat will be transferred into the metal charge through the radiation and convection. Due to that heat, the material will be melted inside the crucible. Okay, so first initially you have to open the lid and you have to add the charge. Charge is nothing but that is the material, non-ferrous material, that will be placed inside the crucible, and then close the lid. Okay, and then you have to switch on the power. At that time the current will be flowing, the high frequency of electric current that will be flowing through the heating coil, and this heating coil, it resists the flow of electric current. When due to resistance offered by the coil, that heat will be generated. That heat will be transferred into the metal, whatever the place inside the crucible, through the radiation and then the convection. So when the sufficient temperature is reached, okay, and then due to that high heat, the material get melted inside the crucible. Okay, once the desired temperature is reached, just you have to cut off the power source. Okay, and you have to cut off the current, and then just open the lid, and with the help of the tongue you can take out the crucible from the furnace, and then that molten metal is poured into the mold cavity, and then we can prepare the casting. Okay, that is the working principle of the resistance furnace. Okay, in that resistance furnace, it works on the principle that when the electric current flows through a resistor coil or heating coil, so that time the heat will be generated. Okay, the resistance offered by the heating coil, the heat will be generated. The heat is given by the formula, that is H is equal to I square RT. Okay, H is equal to, that is heat generated, and I is equal to, that is the current flow, the flow of current, and R is equal to resistance offered by the material, and T is the time of the current flow. Okay, based on this equation the heat will be generated. Okay, due to that heat, whatever the material placed inside the crucible, that will be melted, and once the desired temperature is reached, just you have to cut off the power source and then open the lid, and with the help of the tongue we can take out the crucible from the furnace, and then that molten metal is poured into the mold cavity and then allow for casting, we will get the solidified part. Okay, that is the working of the resistance furnace. Okay, this resistance furnace is mainly used for melting the non-ferrous materials. Okay, non-ferrous materials can be melted by using the resistance furnace. Okay. Next, we will move on to the induction furnace. Induction furnace, it is used for melting the cast iron material, and ferrous material can be melted by using the induction furnace, but the quantity of the material melting is very less. It is around 10 to 25 kg can be melted in the induction furnace. Okay, there are two types of induction furnaces available. One is the core type induction furnace and coreless type of induction furnace. The core type of induction furnace is nothing but the coil is surrounded by the molten metal. The electric coil, this is the electric coil and it is surrounded by the molten metal. That is the core type of induction furnace, but it is not popularly used in the practice, so it is not included in the syllabus. But in the coreless type, the coil surround the molten metal. Okay, this coil will be surrounded by the molten metal. That's why it is a coreless type of induction furnace. Okay, and this coreless type of induction furnace, it is used for melting the cast iron. Okay, next, coming to the construction part, it consists of the cylindrical shell. Okay, the outermost layer is the steel shell and it is lined with the refractory material. Refractory material, either it may be asbestos or mica, is used for the refractory material to prevent the heat losses and to resist the heat shocks and abrasion. Okay, and then the inner layer of the steel shell, it is the refractory lining will be provided, okay, to prevent the insulation or to prevent the heat losses, and this is made up of mica or asbestos. Okay, and the bottom of the furnace, there is a refractory brickwork will be provided to support the crucible, and then the crucible, it is placed above the brickwork. Okay, above the brickwork the crucible will be placed, and this crucible is made up of the refractory material, either clay or silicon carbide or graphite. Okay, and this crucible which carries the metal charge which we are going to be melt. Okay, the material will be added inside the crucible. Okay, and then the helical coils will be provided in the outer layer of the crucible, that is made up of copper tubes, and it is a water cooled copper tubes, and this will be connected to the power source. Okay, and this furnace is hinged at the bottom to that will facilitate the tilting of the furnace. Just once you have to melt the material, that can be poured into the ladle by tilting the furnace. Okay, so at the bottom of the furnace that will be hinged. Okay, that is the construction part of the induction furnace. Okay, the induction furnace, it consists of the steel shell. Okay, it is made up of steel, and the inner surface of the steel shell, it is a refractory lining will be provided. So here for refractory material, the asbestos or mica is used, and then at the bottom of the furnace the brickwork will be provided, and at the bottom the hinges will be provided, that will facilitate the tilting of the furnace. Okay, and then the crucible will be placed inside the furnace or the brickwork, and then the helical grooves will be provided at the outer surface of the crucible, and this helical grooves is connected, or coils will be connected to the power source. Okay. And coming to the working, this induction furnace is work on the principle of the transformer. So the coil, it act as a primary circuit, and the charge is act as a secondary circuit. Okay, and then in between the gap of the crucible and then the refractory lining, the refractory sand will be provided, that will be packed, so that will provide the necessary insulation to the crucible. Okay, in between the gap of the crucible and then the steel shell or refractory lining, the refractory sand will be packed. Okay, that will provide the necessary insulation. Okay, initially you can add the charge inside the furnace, okay, or inside the crucible. Okay, and then coming to the working principle of the induction furnace, this induction furnace, it work on the principle of the transformer, and this copper coil, it act as a primary circuit, and the metal or charge, it act as a secondary circuit. Okay, when the suitable current, the suitable frequency of the electric current is supplied through the copper coil, okay, at the secondary current will be induced into the material. So the resistance offered by the coil, so it generates the heat. Due to that heat, the material get melted. Okay, once you have to supply the high frequency of electric current through the copper coil, so the secondary current will be induced into the metal, or secondary current will be induced into the material. So the copper coil will resist the flow of electric current. Okay, due to the resistance offered by the coil to the flow of electric current, the heat will be generated. Due to that heat, the material get melted inside the furnace. Okay, so the liquid metal undergone a stirring action by the eddy current induced by the electromagnetic force. The electromagnetic force will be induced. Due to that, the eddy current, it will be induced onto the liquid metal. So the stirring action will be taking place to the at the center of the crucible to the electrical coil. Okay, in this coil, the eddy current will be induced. Due to that eddy current, by the electromagnetic force, the stirring action will be taking place. Due to the stirring action, the uniform temperature will be there inside the molten metal. Okay, so uniform temperature will be maintained into the molten metal. Once the material get melted or suitable temperature is reached, just you have to cut off the power source. Okay, and then we can tilt the furnace, and then that molten metal can be poured into the ladle. Okay, and then that metal can be poured into the mold cavity, then allow for solidification, we will get the casting. Okay, that is the working principle of the induction furnace. This induction furnace, it work on the principle of the transformer. Here the copper coil, it act as a primary circuit and metal is act as a secondary circuit. Okay, when the suitable current, the suitable frequency of the electric current will be flow through the copper coil or resisting coil, the heat will be generated. So the secondary current will be induced into the material. Okay, due to the resistance offered by the material. When the current is flowing through the coil, this coil, it resists the flow of electric current. When it resists the flow of electric current, that time the heat will be induced. Due to that heat, the material get melted. Okay, in this molten metal, it undergoes a stirring action. The stirring action will be taking place. Okay, due to the eddy current induced into the metal charge by the electromagnetic force. Okay, at the center of the crucible. In that center of the crucible, the stirring action will be taking place. Due to the stirring action, the temperature is uniformly distributed into that molten metal, and then once the sufficient temperature is reached, or once the metal get melted, just you have to switch off the power source, and then we can tilt the furnace, and that molten metal can be poured through the lip of the furnace into the ladle. Okay, and then that molten metal can be poured into the mold cavity, and then we will get the casting. Okay, and this coreless induction furnace, that is used for melting the ferrous material. That ferrous material can be melted by using the induction furnace. Okay. Next, we will move on to the next type of the furnace is electric arc furnace. In the electric arc furnace, it utilizes the electric arc. The electric arc, to utilizing that electric arc, the heat will be generated between the two conducting material, that is, one is the electrode and the metal charge. So the heat will be generated. Due to that heat, it melts the metal inside the crucible or inside the furnace. Okay, and this type of furnace is used for the melting cast iron material and then the steel. And the major advantages of the electric arc furnace is the efficiency, the thermal efficiency is very high, and the rapid heating is possible in the electric arc furnace, and the temperature can be controlled. Okay, these are the advantages of the electric arc furnace. In the electric arc furnace, the electric arc will be generated. With the help of that electric arc, we can melt the metal inside the furnace. Okay, next, coming to the construction part of the electric arc furnace. In the electric arc furnace, it is classified into two types. One is the direct arc furnace, and in another one is the indirect arc furnace. In the direct arc furnace, the electrode is directly contact with the workpiece material. Okay, the electrode is contact with the workpiece material, and it stabilizes an electric arc. The electric arc will be struck between the electrode and the metal, whichever placed inside the furnace. In the indirect arc furnace, the electric arc will be generated in between the two electrodes. Okay, in between that, there is no contact between the electrode and the metal which we are placed inside the furnace. Okay, so the electric arc will be generated between the two electrodes. But in the direct arc furnace, the electric arc is stuck in between the electrode and then the workpiece material. That's why we call it as direct arc furnace. Okay, next, coming to the construction part. This electric direct arc furnace, it consists of, there is a steel shell. Okay, this is a cylindrical shaped steel shell, and it is a spherical shaped bottom will be provided, and this steel shell is lined with the refractory brick or refractory material to prevent the heat losses. Okay, this is the steel shell, and it is a spherical shape or spherical bottom shape will be provided, and this steel shell is lined with the refractory material, and the bottom earth of the furnace or the rammed earth of the furnace is can be placed in the tilting platform and with the help of the magnetostic brick. Okay, this steel shell is lined with the refractory material, and this bottom portion of the furnace is placed with the magnetostic brick, and this furnace will be placed on a tilting platform, and this furnace can be tilted by either forward or backward direction. Just for tilting the forward position, we can pour the molten metal into the ladle from the furnace. Okay, we can tilt the furnace in a forward position. Okay, this tilting platform that will facilitate the tilting of the furnace either forward or backward direction. Okay, if you tilt a furnace in a forward position, at that time we can pour the molten metal from the furnace into the ladle, and we can tilt the furnace in the backward position. Okay, just you are tilting the furnace in the backward position. At that time we can remove the slag whatever present inside the furnace. Okay, this furnace can be tilted either forward or backward direction, and the pouring spout will be provided. We can pour the molten metal through the pouring spout into the ladle, and here the charging door, this is the charging door, it will be provided. You can add the charge inside the furnace. Okay, and also that is used for removing the slag from the furnace as well as the inspection purpose. The charging door will be provided. Okay, this is the charging door and this is the pouring spout. Okay, and the roof will be provided on the furnace, and this roof is also made up of the steel shell, and this steel shell is lined with the refractory material. Okay, we can add the charge through the roof also. Okay, just you can open the roof and we can add the charge inside the furnace. Okay, and in the roof of the furnace, the 3 cylindrical hole will be provided for accommodating the electrodes. Okay, so the non-consumable electrodes will be accommodated through the roof. Okay, and these electrodes can be connected to the 3-phase power source. Okay, this is the construction part of the direct arc furnace. Okay, it consists of the steel shell and lined with the refractory material, and the bottom portion of the steel shell that will be provided on the magnetostic brick. Okay, and this furnace will be placed in a tilting platform, and this can be tilted either forward or backward position. Okay, if you tilt the furnace in a forward position, we can pour the molten metal into the ladle, and you can tilt the furnace in the backward position, so we can remove the slag from the furnace. Okay, and at the top of the furnace the roof will be provided, and this roof is made up of steel shell and lined with the refractory material. Okay, and in that roof the 3 circular holes will be provided for accommodating the or placed the non-consumable electrodes, and these 3 electrodes can be raised and lowered with the help of the guide, and these 3 electrodes are connected to the 3-phase power supply. Okay, this is the construction part of the direct arc furnace. Next, coming to the working, this electric arc furnace, it works on the principle that the electric arc is struck between the electrode and the metal charge. So the heat will be generated by the resistance offered by the flow of the electric current. When this material it resists the flow of electric current, at that time the heat will be generated. Due to that heat, it melts the metal inside the furnace. Okay, that is the principle of the direct arc welding. Okay, next, in the working, initially we can add the charge inside the furnace through the charging door. Okay, we can add the charge, either it may be steel scrap or cast iron that can be added inside the furnace through the charging door. Okay, next, these electrodes can be connected to the power source. The 3 non-consumable, that is graphite electrode, can be connected to the power source. Okay, and the suitable current and voltage can be supplied through the electrodes. Okay, and these electrodes initially contact with the metal charge which are placed inside the crucible and then separate it, and then in that gap the electric arc will be generated. Okay, these electrodes can be raised and lowered with the help of the guide. Okay, initially just you have to brought the electrodes closer to the metal charge and then separate it. At that time, in that gap the electric arc will be generated. Okay, this electric arc, it melts the charge inside the furnace because the temperature is very high. Due to high temperature, this metal, whatever the metal is placed inside the furnace, that will be melted. Once the desired temperature is reached, just you have to cut off the power source, and then we can raise the electrode inside the furnace, and then just we can tilt the furnace in the forward position. We can pour the molten metal into the ladle. Before tilting in the forward position, just we can tilt the furnace in the backward position and remove the slag whatever present inside the furnace. Okay, in that initially while adding the charge, we can add the flux. this flux is react with the molten metal and that will forms the slag. Okay, whatever the impurities is present inside the molten metal, that will react with the a flux material and that will forms the slag, and this slag is protect the molten metal from the oxidation. Okay, when you tilt the furnace in the backward position, just we can removing the slag whatever present inside the molten metal, and after removing the slag we can tilt the furnace in the forward position and then we can pour the molten metal into the ladle, and that molten metal can be poured into the mold cavity and we can prepare the casting. Okay, that is the working of the electric arc furnace. Okay, in this type of furnace is used for melting cast iron and steel material. Okay, here the heat source, just the electric arc will be struck between the electrode and the melt. Okay, at that time the heat will be generated. With the help of that heat we can melt the material inside the furnace, and this furnace can be placed in the tilting platform. We can tilt the furnace in the forward as well as the backward position. Just we can tilt the furnace in the backward position just for removing the slag, or and you can tilt the furnace in the forward position just for pouring the molten metal into the ladle. Okay, that is the working principle of the electric arc furnace. Okay, thank you.